Hello everyone, Mitz here again, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about rewarding your players better, more often. Going on adventures should be very rewarding for your players, whether that's through the experience gained and progression of the character, some new ability learned, promise of riches, or magic items. Players need some of these things to move towards other than just the satisfaction of the story. Remember, this is a game after all, and we play to be overpowered and to have fun. Let's take a look at a couple of ways you can reward your players, but first, let's ask, what do your players want? This might not come to mind right away. You might just think they want golden items, but trust me when I can tell you that they want more than just loot for their characters. They want power. Unlimited power! Whatever form that comes in. It can be different for every single group of players. Ask the players themselves if there's anything they want or anything that their character might specifically be looking for. Asking is a great way to make sure you know exactly what they want, and it'll give you some insight to that character's motivation for adventuring. I'm going to give you a list of things that you might want to use as rewards for players and characters, and I'll explain each and how you might want to use them. Number one is loot tables. Some players just love random stuff. It might let them figure out who wants to buy it, who they can sell it to, how to get the best price, how they might be able to use it or use it in crafting, or is it a spell component that they rarely come across, or is it useful in some other situation as a pseudo MacGuffin. Using loot tables are a great way to reward your players for random encounters that you haven't quite planned out what might be in them yet. Using things from the trinkets table here is a very good way to reward your players with fun little interesting items that won't make a world of difference. There are many loot tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but they can be hard to implement and easy to get lost in, especially since a lot of the items on those lists will give your players some form of power gain, which you don't always want to give them for just a random encounter. But if you do decide to use these tables, just remember to have a look at them thoroughly first, and if you roll something you don't like, you can always re-roll or just pick exactly what you think they might need. Number two is magic items. So these are those magic items that I just mentioned from the loot tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And rolling on these tables is a great idea if you want to give your players something powerful but you're not just quite sure what. Roll on the table and hand them an item. Although I would add one caveat to this, where make sure that the item that you rolled can actually be used by your party. There's no point giving them a wizard's hat if there's no wizards in the party. Magic items can be used as a very big incentive for some players and their characters. And some players find really interesting ways to use magic items outside of the box. I love giving out common magic items or even making my own. Yeah, that's right. You guys can check me out on Patreon. Links down in the description. I post up magic items, maps, and monsters every single month. You can also check me out on the DMs Guild where I've posted a few things, some one-shots. Links again down below. You can follow me everywhere at Critical Mitz on all socials. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It means the world. Having these little common magic items can quite often mean that players can use them in an interesting and fun way outside of what they might usually be considered to be used for. A seemingly simple obstacle to get over could be solved by a common magic item that you've given out previously. When you're giving out magic items, beware of power gains of the individual characters and try and spread them out fairly evenly between all the characters. Something like a +1 sword doesn't seem like much at the time, but it lets that character hit harder, more frequently, and it bypasses magical resistance from a lot of low-level monsters. You also don't want to be giving out magic items that have walls and walls of text here for lower level characters, or to newer players. Keep it simple, as the players are getting used to their characters' new abilities, and then slowly give them magic items that allow them to shore up holes in their weaknesses. Giving them items that have charges or can be used once a day or periodically is a great way to start them getting used to thinking about how these magic items might affect their adventures. Number three is useful items. Sometimes all they need is a lockpicking tool, or a shovel, or a hammer. These mundane items can easily be bought when you're in any kind of town or city. But once the party's out adventuring, they might not have access to these things. Manacles, rope, a crowbar, some of these things come in some of the packs that you might be able to start with, but players don't always think of them. Providing these as random encounter rewards or simply things lying around in rooms as they're exploring a dungeon is a great way to reward your players for a little bit of investigatory behavior. You can add slight twists on these simple items too. One of the common magic items, I think it's Candle of the Deep, the candle that doesn't go out underwater. It's a great one. A version of the alchemy jug that only ever contains honey. A piece of paper that you can write messages on, but only those that say the right phrase when they open it can see the proper message. All these are very simple examples of things that your players might not know they need, but when they come across them and they find them, they'll find a multitude of uses for them. Pick out things that you as a DM have noticed that the party might be struggling with, and create magic items in this sense that are simple enough to use for some very mundane tasks that the party is constantly struggling with. Some of my players are terrible at communicating out of earshot, so give them sending stones to fix that problem. They didn't even realize how useful they would be until they had them. Okay, number 4, one-use items. Think of something really overpowered. Now think of how insane it would be to give that really overpowered item to your low-level party. Now think, what if they could only use it once? Is it still too powerful? What if they could only use it once ever? What if they could only use it once a day? Giving your players a version of an item that can only be used once can make for some epic moments that couldn't otherwise be achieved. There are lots of magic items out there that have charges and use a charges system, so finding one with only one charge left, probably not that uncommon. Having something fun that your players might be able to hold on to for a very specific event is great, but if you're going to start giving these out a lot, make sure to let your players know just how frequently they'll be getting them and that they should try and use them to have fun with. Otherwise, they'll get like my players and hoard them all for a rainy day and just never end up using any of them. Definitely let your players know there'll be more of these and they should have fun with them. Giving your players a little taste of extreme power with these items is a great way to have some fun. They might even try and buy the item after trying it out. Speaking of which, number 5 is gold. This one feels like a no-brainer. Give your players gold. How much is up to you? But the real question here is, what kind of role does gold play in your world? Are they just buying drinks and renting rooms at a tavern? Getting rations for their next quest, or only spending it on healing potions? If they're not using all that gold towards something, and they aren't crafting or buying magic items, perhaps there's other ways that they could use the gold that they acquire. Some spell components can be quite costly at higher levels, but what else do the players and the party really need? Think about what the players want for their characters, and if they can get it with gold, let them. Let them go out and buy that full plate armor. Let them go visit the wizard and buy that spell scroll so they can copy it into their spellbook. That enchanted sword they saw in the magic item shop, they've got something to aim for now with all their gold. The only limit here is the shopkeepers of the world and what they carry. Do the players want to commission specific items and then slowly pay them off as they go adventuring, finding more gold and eventually picking up that amazing wand of fireballs? Once again, ask your players, items, things they might want, and if you think they can viably get it with gold, reward them with more gold. Okay, number 6, boons. Just like one-use items, boons can be a great way to reward your characters with something that isn't going to last forever. They can feel mighty and powerful for a short period of time, but these can be a little bit more personal than a magic item. These can be gifted by deities, bestowed upon them by some kind of celestial being. These can be part of the story, and in that sense, they'll make them feel much more engaging, and they can be time specific. Rather than getting an item that the players choose when to use, this could be a buff that lasts a week or two, or until some other trigger or some other story beat just so happens to cross paths with this character while they have a boon active. Taking something that a character does well and make it even more extreme is a great start for thinking of how to give boons out to your characters. When the barbarian hits with his attacks, they might cause double the rage damage, or it might give him a buff that means the barbarian is critting on 19s and 20s. This doesn't have to be completely based on attributes or combat. You could give them something like they can detect magic when they're underground for the next 14 days. Or perhaps they now float when they fall more than 10 feet, but only while they're outdoors. Something simple but interesting along these lines is a fun little idea to give your characters something extra to think about for the next few sessions. Look at spell effects and other classes' subclasses for some cool ideas on what to give. Number 7, new abilities. Granting your player characters some new abilities will definitely feel like a big power spike. And it might feel like this might throw off the balance of your game a little bit. But all it really does is make it more fun for your players. RP becomes easier when they're trained in more social skills, so it won't feel awkward for characters that aren't charisma based to now roll these persuasion and deception skills. Classes that aren't known for combat might become more versatile and tactile in combat. But this only works if you're willing to give your players a little bit more power. You can start by giving these out like boons, and if the players really enjoy them, they can go on a quest that they have to complete in order to fully train in the thing that they just had a taste of. This training could come in the form of a downtime skill check scenario or some other kind of activity. Having your players working on these things outside of leveling up will give your players a sense of progression that they can't find otherwise. And it will help them engage, feel like the epic characters that the story is meant to have. The stronger they become, the more renown they will gain, and the people will come. Which leads me into number 8, followers. Why wouldn't your party of characters attract all kinds of followers? Surely their deeds, good or bad, would attract followers of all kinds. Giving them some kind of celebrity status, they could use these followers for small tasks such as buying potions and supplies, sending messages, and retrieving information. All these little things become more annoying to manage as the characters become more and more epic. So having followers to do these menial tasks for them is a great way to reward your players. These followers could even aspire to be like you, and your characters could train them. These followers could gather information, find rumors, hear of quests. They can be your eyes and ears while you're not in town and you're out doing some epic adventures. Having people around you can trust to do these tasks for you is not an easy thing to do in D&D. There's a couple of backgrounds and there's some spells that can do these for you, but hire a follower. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? These are just some of the rewards that you can use for your players. Think of the reasons that your players love to play the game and reward them accordingly. What their characters want, what their characters need, and helping them play out their power fantasy inside this game that we all love. You don't need to get too bogged down in the gold and economics side of things. And if your players become too overpowered, that's okay. They're supposed to be overpowered. They're the heroes of the story after all. And how do they become those epic characters in that epic story? Well, in our next video, I'm going to tell you how to create some epic stories.